there, friends. I hope you're doing well. I'm Laura, aka Weird Barbie, and today we're asking, what if the game you've been searching for came out 22 years ago? Because somehow, despite all the games I've played, despite living in a world where MMOs get constant patches, quality of life updates, and please don't leave style improvements, I found myself booting up Final Fantasy XI in 2025. This is a game infamous for no quest markers, very limited fast travel, semi-mandatory grouping, losing EXP when you die, and obscure systems that feel like deciphering ancient prophecies. And I did this voluntarily. Not because I'm nostalgic for early 2000s MMOs. I didn't play Final Fantasy XI back then. And I'm not doing it because I need content. I can barely handle the backlog I already have in the works. I did it because I wanted to challenge myself, to step into discomfort, to try a Final Fantasy game I've never touched, to explore horizontal progression in a gaming world obsessed with vertical progression, and to see why people are still playing this game long after its technical expiration date. Basically, I wanted to feel something. I wanted an MMO that pushes back. And Final Fantasy XI pushes back so hard, it might as well be a personal trainer who hates you. So let's talk about what that's like. Let's talk about why this game is still alive. Let's talk about what happens to the gameplay experience when you deliberately choose difficulty in an era built on convenience. This is Final Fantasy XI in 2025. So grab a tea, your favorite hoodie, and let's dive in. Modern MMOs are smooth as baby food. They're welcoming, comfortable, carefully padded around every sharp edge just in case your toddler ass takes a tumble. In Final Fantasy XIV, I am a warrior of light, wrapped in a warm, fuzzy blanket made of sparkles, accessibility, quality of life improvements, and a few hundred hours of narrative therapy. But recently, I started craving friction. Not the badly designed or toxic community kind, but the kind that makes you sit up in your chair. The kind that makes you remember you're actually playing something. I didn't want to turn my brain off. I wanted to turn it on. I wanted the feeling of being lost, the dread of wandering too far from safety, the joy of figuring something out on my own, the triumph of surviving something I had no business surviving. I craved the opposite of convenience. I craved texture. Final Fantasy XI was built in an era before quest markers, before fast travel, before accessibility meant the game should respect your time. Here, the game respects your time by consuming it whole. Let's list some features that would make modern players uninstall on sight. No quest markers at all. NPCs speak in riddles. Not cool poetic riddles, more like, my brother's friend saw a bird once. Anyway, go kill God. Limited teleport options. You earn fast travel the way people earn PhDs. Combat so slow it becomes spiritual. Early game attacks land with the power of a wet sock slapping concrete. Monsters aggro based on everything. Sight, sound, smell, moon phase, political climate. EXP loss on death. Not a slap on the wrist, an entire evening gone. In modern MMOs, these would be flaws. In Final Fantasy XI, they are the DNA of the experience. This is a world that is not built to serve you. It's indifferent to you. Beautifully, defiantly indifferent. And because it asks more of you, you end up getting more back from it. I won't lie, my character's pretty hot. But the game is hotter. It's flat out gorgeous for a game old enough to rent a car. Not in the 4K ray trace pores way modern games chase. It's beautiful in a handcrafted, stylized, intentional way. The sunsets in Gustaberg, the fog rolling over Ranfauer, the starfield stretching across Lothian Plateau. The music, soft, melancholic, hopeful. It all hits so much harder because this game is almost 25 years old. 25! And it does not look like it. It blows my mind how good Final Fantasy XI can look while still being functionally in the MMO Stone Age. Like, the UI is ancient, the menus feel like an archaeological dig, the controls are, let's call them, historically significant. But visually, emotionally, atmospherically, the game knows exactly what beauty is, and it presents it like a maestro conducting an orchestra. It doesn't need realism, it doesn't need fidelity, because it has soul. And somehow, nearly a quarter century later, it still looks and feels like a magical place. There's something kind of strange about nostalgia, how it isn't always tied to memory. Sometimes it attaches itself to the absence of memory. Sometimes you look at something old and your brain whispers, I remember this, even though you absolutely weren't there to experience it. And that's exactly what Final Fantasy XI feels like to me. I do remember wanting this game when I was a teenager. Final Fantasy as an MMO, that concept alone exploded my young brain. Cross-platform play between PC and console? Unheard of. But I barely even knew what an MMO was and didn't have a PS2 that could connect to the internet. My family computer also couldn't really run games beyond Roller Coaster Tycoon, Insane Aquarium, and Populous. So instead of playing it, I did what most kids did before broadband internet and YouTube existed. I imagined what it must be like. Playing it now, it somehow feels exactly like the thing I imagined. Even though this game is 22 years old, it radiates that early 2000s spirit so strongly that I feel nostalgic for a game I never actually got to experience at the height of its popularity. The menus, the music, the sound effects, the low-poly charm, they all hit that same pocket of comfort that old-school RuneScape's login screen does for me. Now, coming directly from Final Fantasy XIV, I didn't realize how deeply vertical progression had shaped my MMO brain. Gear replaces gear replaces gear. Every patch wipes the slate clean. Your crafted gear from last month becomes historical fiction. Final Fantasy XI said, "Bitch, get off the treadmill and go touch grass." There is no gear reset. There is only sideways growth. Jobs don't become obsolete. They become tools in a toolbox you're constantly expanding. Old content doesn't die. It becomes a living part of the world's economy and culture. It's a world built on horizontal progression, sort of like a coral reef, slowly growing, interlocking, never shedding old layers. Everything stays relevant. The game doesn't move forward without you. It expands outward around you. It's not a treadmill, it's an ecosystem. Horizontal progression makes the world feel alive because the world doesn't forget its own history every 6 months. Now, let's switch gears a little bit and address the setup process. And I'm using the word process in the loosest, most legally flexible way possible, because calling what I went through a process instead of the Hunger Games would be dishonest. Getting this game running on a docked Steam Deck with a PS4 controller in the year of our Lord 2025 took over 4 hours. 4 hours of fiddling with settings, mapping buttons, adjusting joystick dead zones, troubleshooting spinning cameras, googling black screen Final Fantasy XI, why do you fucking hate me? Swearing again. Why isn't this working? Why is this working, but in the wrong direction? It was so frustrating. Deeply, hilariously, existentially. But also, kind of acceptable? Because, listen, Final Fantasy XIV players love to complain about its notoriously janky registration and Steam setup process. And don't get me wrong, trying to register FF14 in 2025 does feel like being punished for crimes you haven't committed yet, but compared to Final Fantasy XI, don't make me laugh. Whenever I see people on Reddit complaining about Final Fantasy XIV's setup process now, I catch myself whispering, "Oh, my sweet summer child." They have no idea how good they've got it. Because Final Fantasy XI isn't janky. Final Fantasy XI is cosmic horror. You don't fight it, you don't negotiate with it, you simply nod respectfully, make the proper blood offerings, and hope you emerge with your sanity intact. And once you finally pass whatever arcane ritual the Play Online launcher demands of you, the game just works. Shockingly well, actually. The controls feel natural, the engine runs smooth, and despite being older than some of the people playing it, nothing essential feels missing. Unless you count the total absence of quest markers. But that's a whole different section. Final Fantasy XI expects you to remember things. It expects you to talk to NPCs. It expects you to read. It expects you to actually pay attention to what's going on in the world. My working memory, however, is garbage, like an overflowing junk drawer where important thoughts go to die. So, I busted out a notebook, a set of highlighters, and a pen that I absolutely kept losing. And it made the experience so much better. Tasks felt concrete when I wrote them down. Quests became journeys instead of errands. NPC dialogue became something worth capturing instead of skipping. You don't have to play this way, but for me, the notebook became essential. Like the game extended out of the screen and into my physical reality. And once the world became more physical, that's when the gameplay started to hit differently too. So let's talk about gameplay. Specifically, I want to talk about the EXP loss. I have hated this mechanic in every game I have ever touched. EXP loss has always felt like a punishment for trying to learn. So, when I hit level 31, meaning I'd finally start losing EXP on death, and eventually died, just like I've been doing for countless hours before that, I nearly rage quit. Because here's the thing they don't tell you at the door. You don't just lose some arbitrary chunk of XP, you lose 10% of the total amount required to reach your next level. Not 10% of what you currently have, 10% of what it requires to reach your next level. Which means if you die enough, you can actually level down in this bitch. Like, regress. Like, congrats, you bought fancy new gear you can no longer wear. Hope you kept your ratty starter set in your Mog House, champ. When I realized all that after my first real death, I stared at my EXP bar like it had personally conspired against me. But then something strange happened. After the shock faded, after the panic subsided, after I convinced myself I didn't need to draft a formal complaint to Square Enix, I realized the tension kinda just worked. Death suddenly mattered. The threat of loss gave even tiny victories emotional weight. In most modern games, death is slapstick. Respawn, repair bill, lol, my bad, and vibes restored. But in Final Fantasy XI, death is part of the narrative. You feel it. You remember it. You tell people about it later like a war story. Death isn't a failure, it's a chapter in your character's journey. And I had forgotten what that felt like. Difficulty isn't there to hurt you, it's there to anchor you, to make you care, to make the world feel less like content and more like an experience. And that sense of consequence flows directly into something else I didn't expect to love: the combat. Combat in Final Fantasy XI feels like this strange hybrid between RuneScape's click and wait flow and classic Final Fantasy's turn-based rhythm. You pick your target, you engage, and the game just ticks away until you build up enough TP to use an ability. It's like a turn-based system wearing a RuneScape trench coat. It's familiar but weird. Old but kind of fresh. Clunky but very satisfying. And here's the thing nobody warned me about though. Do not, and I cannot stress this enough, try to take on more than one enemy at a time. In most MMOs, 2 mobs is annoying. In Final Fantasy XI, 2 mobs is a death sentence. You aggro even a second rabbit by accident? Pack it up, girl, you're going home in a box. It reminds me of older games where tension wasn't created by flashy animations, but by the terrifying knowledge that, oh dear God, you pulled one too many bees! And honestly, I'm loving it. It feels deliberate, thoughtful, like every pull is a decision, not just an action. Like I'm participating in this slow, careful dance where one misstep means the dance partner kills you. But combat only works because of how 11 frames the whole world around it, and especially how it handles quests. Because to understand Final Fantasy XI's combat, you kind of have to understand the entire philosophy it has about questing. And spoiler, it is completely unlike anything modern MMOs do. If you come from WoW, Guild Wars 2, or especially Final Fantasy XIV, you're trained for this loop. Travel to hub, pick up quests, go to quest marker, complete, turn in. Final Fantasy XI looks at that entire structure and says, no, absolutely not. In this game, you don't walk into a village to find quests. You already have quests. Your quest log is basically a binder full of obligations. You flip through it like, okay, which decade-old responsibility am I fulfilling today? It's backwards, it's messy, but it's brilliant. And then there's the training regimes and hunt systems. Modern games say, here's your curated quest experience, honey. Can I get you anything else? Final Fantasy XI says, pick your flavor of suffering, bitch. Find what mobs you're already fighting in an area, and then select bees, worms, goblins, crabs, rabbits who punch like heavyweight champions. Now you're getting bonus XP for something you were doing anyway. It's like getting loyalty points for trauma. NPC quests? They do exist, but the game does not track them at all. They just say it out loud and trust that you're a functioning adult with a working memory, which I am not. So I write everything down. Pen, notebook, highlighters, multiple sticky tabs. I look like I'm preparing a dissertation, not playing an MMO. And honestly, I kind of love it. Because all these systems, the notebook, the EXP loss, the combat tension, the questing philosophy, they're all designed to do the same thing. Slow you down. Make you present. Make the world feel like a world. And in 2025, that is the part of MMOs I have been missing the most. Another adorable old school quirk of Final Fantasy XI is that your health doesn't regenerate outside of combat. Like, at all. Unless you cast a regen spell, your only option is to kneel down, literally by typing /heal. I set this to a macro so I can hit it from my PS4 controller on Steam Deck, but just know healing takes time. A lot of time, depending on how badly things went for you. And you know what? I've kind of embraced it. It's become my snack break, my go to the bathroom break, my write nonsense thoughts in my notebook for this video break. Modern games try to make every second of gameplay frictionless. Final Fantasy XI says, hey, go stretch your legs, I'll be here when you're ready. It's weirdly refreshing. It's, dare I say, liberating. One of the most antiquated features in Final Fantasy XI, though, even more so than the questing system, and it's one I didn't expect to love, is the lack of maps. You literally do not have a map for most regions until you buy one. At first, this kind of felt hostile. A leftover relic from the PS2 era that modern design has fixed many times over. But then something weird happened. I realized, I kind of love it. Wandering into a new city with no map feels like stepping into a new country without Google Maps for the first time in your life. You're confused, you're lost, you're spinning in circles trying to figure out which building is the auction house and which one is just a convincing piece of background set, and then you find it, the map seller, tucked away in an alley or standing by a fountain or on the complete opposite side of the city from where you assumed they'd be. You buy the map, open it, and suddenly the world clicks into place. And it feels so earned. Because you remember what it felt like not to have the map. You remember the struggle, the exploration. It's a small victory of solving a problem on your own. Maps in modern games are just there. A default expectation. Informational noise. But in Final Fantasy XI, maps are milestones. They mark the moment you go from lost visitor to someone who actually belongs here. It's an old design philosophy, one a lot of people would call outdated, but to me, it's friction that adds texture. It makes game spaces feel like real places. It gives world exploration weight, purpose, and memory. Besides the gameplay systems, one thing I absolutely adore about Final Fantasy XI is that it is 100% subscription based. No microtransactions, no cash shop, no cosmetic store, no fucking battle pass. Just the game as it is. In a modern landscape where your character can look like anything as long as you have a credit card, Final Fantasy XI does something incredibly rare. It preserves the link between appearance and experience. What a player is wearing isn't just whatever looked cute in the store that day. It's a history lesson. It's a story. A breadcrumb trail of where they've been and what they've conquered. You know what they've gone through. Someone in an unusual weapon skill acquisition set? They probably fought through a job quest chain that would make modern players cry. This is the same reason I think old school RuneScape is so much better than RuneScape 3. In older MMOs, your gear wasn't just an outfit. You didn't decide how you looked, you became how you looked. And that's huge for forming camaraderie. You bond over experience, not fashion sense. Final Fantasy XI does not feel like a modern MMO. Not in structure, not in pacing, not even in the way it respects or disrespects your time. It actually feels like this weird, beautiful hybrid of an old school roguelike, a social sandbox MMO where number go up, a survival game, and yes, that Dark Souls vibe where the world absolutely does not care about you. You know in Dark Souls, when you inch through a new zone, shield up, terrified of whatever is around the corner? Final Fantasy XI gives you that exact energy, but like in slow motion. A 2004 version of the Souls-like exploratory dread scenario. The kind that whispers, yeah, you can go forward, but should you? You gear up, check your inventory, maybe pray to Madonna, visit the vendors, and then you dive into a zone. Try to make it to the next teleport point. This game's very own version of a bonfire. Panic when you aggro the wrong thing. Sprint back through the doorway to the previous zone with 1 HP like a little bitch. Heal, reset, repeat. Every run pushes you a little deeper, gives you a bit more experience. It's like learning a Dark Souls route by dying repeatedly until your body simply memorizes the path from trauma. Sometimes you get 30 feet farther. Sometimes a pack of rabbits ruins your life. It is hilarious. It is exhausting. It is immaculate game design. FF11 is one of the only MMOs that actively kicks you out of comfortable grinding spots. You get stronger, mobs give less XP. Eventually, they give none. Not even a pity point. It's the game's way of saying, great job, sweetie. Now get out of the kiddie pool and go fight God. It's very Dark Souls. No grinding on rabbits forever. Go fight the gargoyles, babe. This system ensures you're always pushing into dangerous new zones. Not because you want to, but because the EXP gods demand blood sacrifices in the name of efficiency. Each zone becomes this escalating gauntlet. Mobs at your level, mobs slightly above your level, and mobs that exist solely to teach you the meaning of the word humility. You slowly work your way up from enemy type to enemy type, and when you finally beat something that used to flatten you, the dopamine rush is incredible. It's the same high as finally beating a Dark Souls boss that has dominated your whole weekend. Part of this pattern of difficulty in FF11 is tuned around group play, like all classic MMOs were, but also like the Souls series. You are not meant to face everything alone. You can bring friends. To combat complaints about the lack of solo ability, Square Enix did eventually add trusts to the game, which are NPC companions you can summon to help you, sort of like Pokemon, all with unique looks, stats, and AI playstyles. You start with being able to summon 3, eventually getting up to 5. They were added around 2013, 2014 to soften the early game punishment, and they did just that. Many players, especially new players, rejoiced. Some veterans acted like FromSoft had just patched out iframes. And I get both sides. My first 30 levels were pretty quiet. Not a lot of chatting, just me and my little squad of AI besties wandering the countryside like a dysfunctional JRPG party alongside others doing the same. Veteran players say trusts killed the social element of the game, but was that decline in player sociability really the fault of trusts, or just a general change in player culture shifting towards solo play over time? Who knows? But without trusts, I absolutely would have been sent to the Shadow Realm a lot more than I already was. 'Cause I am not a social MMO player. I like my independence, my quiet, my solo queues with NPCs. My digital hermit lifestyle. So the idea that Final Fantasy XI requires grouping for certain jobs to progress kind of sparked immediate panic. But here's what surprised me. In FF11, grouping doesn't feel like a chore. It feels like a tradition. People talk here. They explain things. They give food. They buff you for no reason. They wait for you to walk from Bastock Mines to the outpost like it's a pilgrimage. Groups feel like little temporary families, not optimized DPS machines hell-bent on not talking. And because the game's difficulty requires cooperation, you start relying on people in a way modern MMOs rarely require. Community isn't an optional buff here, it's a core mechanic. And slowly, I found myself opening up. Not because I suddenly became extroverted, but because the world made socializing meaningful to my progress. Friction created connection. Now, whether you engage with the trust system or not, it's the Dark Souls vibes and the classic roguelike structure to progression in FF11 that makes it hit different. You don't get spoon-fed smooth, easy, digestible gameplay like in other MMOs. You get stronger because you dove in, chewed shit up, and fought your ass off. It's claw your way forward kind of progression. It's I died 12 times, but now I own this zone kind of progression. It's peak endorphins like chef's kiss. Final Fantasy XI absolutely nails that power arc where you go from, please don't hit me, okay, I can survive this, I fear no god, they fear me. It's slow, it's painful, but it's unbelievably rewarding. You start every zone scared. You inch forward, you grind, you run screaming when something bigger than you glances your way. But little by little, you grow. Soon you're mowing down enemies that used to fold you like a lawn chair. You strut through the zone like you own mineral rights, baby, and for a brief, glorious moment, you are unstoppable. And then, you walk into the next zone, and instantly get humbled back to fighting Fisher-Price My First Mob because everything else absolutely deletes you. It's hilarious. It's perfect. It's a lesson in humility. One moment you're the apex predator, the next you're being removed from the census by a crab. That rise and fall, that cycle of confidence and humiliation, is the secret sauce. Final Fantasy XI makes you earn every inch you take. Defeating every mob type, conquering every zone, fighting for every victory. You get to feel powerful, just long enough to get to a place that humbles you in 2 seconds flat. And honestly, it's charming. Final Fantasy XI should not still be alive. By every metric we use for MMO survivability, business model, age, accessibility, graphics, onboarding, UI, like this game should have gone full ghost town years ago. And yet it hasn't. Why? Because no other game replaced what Final Fantasy XI is. Modern MMOs all moved in one direction. More convenience, more streamlining, more microtransactions, more casual on-demand gameplay. The Grim Reaper came for Final Fantasy XI, and instead of resigning itself to death by old age, it dug in its 6-inch stiletto heels, flipped its weave, and said, "No ma'am." It is one of the last MMOs from an era with a different design philosophy. It's not nostalgia that keeps it alive, it's uniqueness. Nothing else feels like this. Nothing else asks what this game asks. Nothing else gives what this game offers. People stay because FF11 is a refuge for a style of game design that the industry abandoned. It is the last of its species. Endangered, precious, beautiful. I came to Final Fantasy XI looking for challenge. I thought the challenge would make me tougher or better at games or more patient. But that wasn't the lesson. The lesson was this. Sometimes difficulty isn't an obstacle to be avoided. It's a speed bump on the road to meaningful enjoyment. Difficulty forced me to be present, intentional, thoughtful, cautious in a good way, curious again, open to people, and willing to learn instead of optimize. It brought back feelings I haven't had since childhood. That awe of discovering a game world that doesn't revolve around you and your comfort. Final Fantasy XI didn't make me better at MMOs. It made me better at engaging with MMOs. It showed me the value of being a beginner again, of getting lost, of being vulnerable, of earning progress inch by bloodied inch instead of waiting for it to be handed to me. I don't know yet if I'll manage a full playthrough or not, because Final Fantasy XI is enormous, demanding, and famously not afraid to make you devolve into a child crying for their mommy in the corner. But I'm gonna try, because the more I play, the more I realize something important. This isn't just an old MMO. It's a time capsule. A world that still feels alive because it was built to be lived in, not experienced for a week and then forgotten about by tourists. And maybe, just maybe, the nostalgia I felt logging in for the first time, nostalgia I had no right to feel, is exactly why I'm still here. Still grinding, still dying, and having the time of my life. So, that was my journey into Final Fantasy XI in 2025. A game that never modernized, never streamlined, and never apologized for its difficulty. A world that stayed exactly where it was, waiting for players like me, like us, to finally arrive. I know this phrase gets thrown around a lot, but if you can put up with the jank and the quirks, FF11 is a hidden gem just waiting for you to discover it. And it's beautiful. If you enjoyed this video, it would mean the absolute world to me if you hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to reach my first 1K subs, and every single one of you helps push this little cozy corner of the internet forward. And hey, if you've ever played FF11, drop a like and tell me what your experience in Vanadiel was like. What starting city did you choose? Are you a cat girl? I know you're a cat girl. I want to hear all about it. That's all from me today, guys. Remember to take care of yourselves, and until next time, stay weird, stay cozy, and keep leveling.